Under the dim glow of a street lamp in a quiet Boston suburb, the night was shattered by the screech of sirens. Margaret Thompson, a young black woman in her early 20s, gripped the steering wheel of her old sedan, her heart pounding as Officer Daniel Harper approached. "You fit the description," he barked, his voice dripping with authority, his flashlight blinding her. No evidence. No reason, just the color of her skin. As cold handcuffs snapped around her wrists, a crowd gathered, smartphones raised, capturing every second of the injustice. Little did Harper know, he hadn't just stopped a random driver. He'd ignited a firestorm that would shake the city to its core. Margaret wasn't just any woman. She was weeks away from being named valedictorian at Harvard, a beacon of brilliance in a world that often tried to dim her light. The video of her arrest went viral, spreading like wildfire across social media. From cozy living rooms in Back Bay to bustling diners in South Boston, people watched, outraged, as the footage exposed the raw prejudice of a system gone wrong. Margaret, unshaken, refused to stay silent. This wasn't just her fight, it was a call to action, a spark for change. The street lamp flickered as Officer Harper, a burly man with a permanent scowl, adjusted his belt, the weight of his badge fueling his confidence. To him, this was routine, another night on patrol in a city where he believed he owned the streets. Margaret, her cocoa skin glowing under the harsh light, met his gaze with a quiet strength that unnerved him. "License and registration," he demanded, his tone sharp. She complied, her hands steady despite the tremor in her chest, handing over her documents with a calm that irritated him. "What's a girl like you doing out here so late?" he sneered, as if her presence was a crime. "Working late, sir," Margaret replied, her voice even but firm. Harper's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect defiance, not from someone like her. "You fit the description of a suspect," he said, the words flimsy, a tired excuse worn thin by years of misuse. Margaret's brow furrowed, a flash of disbelief crossing her face. "What description?" she asked, her tone laced with a challenge that made Harper's jaw tighten. He ordered her out of the car, his voice rising, urgency masking his unease. As she stepped into the cold night, her silhouette framed by the street lamp, a bystander's phone captured the moment, the lens silently documenting a scene all too familiar in America. The cuffs clicked, and Margaret winced not from pain, but from the searing humiliation. She stood tall, her dignity a quiet rebellion against Harper's authority. The crowd grew, whispers of anger rippling through the suburban darkness. An elderly woman, Clara, peered from her window, her hands clutching the curtains. She'd seen this before, decades ago, when she marched for civil rights. Now, history was repeating itself, and she dialed a number, her voice low but resolute, spreading word of the injustice unfolding on her street. Across town, Thomas Reed, a local journalist with a nose for truth, watched the video hit his feed. His fingers flew across his phone, sharing the footage to his network. This wasn't just a story, it was a reckoning. At the same time, Laura Bennett, Margaret's former high school teacher, streamed the scene live, her heart breaking as she recognized the girl who once lit up her classroom with curiosity. The digital surge was unstoppable, hashtags trending, comments flooding in. "How many times must we see this? When will it end?" Margaret's father, James, stood in his modest Dorchester home, the TV flickering with the viral footage. His daughter's face, defiant yet composed, stirred a fire in him. He taught her to wield her voice as a weapon, and now she was doing just that. Grabbing his coat, he headed to the scene, joining the growing crowd, his presence a silent vow to stand by her side. The next morning, Boston buzzed with outrage. In a cramped newsroom, editors debated how to cover the story, aware it wasn't just news, it was a moral imperative. At a corner coffee shop, Laura met with a community organizer, sketching plans for a town hall to keep the momentum alive. Margaret, in her bedroom, scrolled through messages of support from strangers across the globe, her resolve hardening. A notification pinged, a civil rights attorney offering pro bono help. The fight was growing, and she was its heart. Officer Harper, meanwhile, paced his office, the TV droning with reports of his actions. His usual swagger faltered under the weight of public scrutiny. Angry voicemails piled up, each one a nail in the coffin of his untouchable image. Behind closed doors, whispers of cover-up surfaced. A young officer, Michael, hesitated, his conscience tugging at him. He'd seen Harper's patterns before: small favors, manipulated reports, a culture of silence. Could he stay quiet any longer? Days later, the town hall was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Margaret took the podium, her voice steady but powerful. 2 nights ago, I was pulled over for no reason but the color of my skin, she began. This isn't just my story, it's the story of countless others, silenced by a system that protects its own. The room erupted, her words a spark igniting a collective demand for change. Thomas scribbled furiously, his camera capturing her defiance. Laura nodded, tears in her eyes, remembering the girl who'd dreamed big. James watched, pride and fury intertwining. The movement gained steam. Sarah Mitchell, an investigative journalist, dug into the Boston Police Department's underbelly, uncovering a web of misconduct stretching beyond Harper. Her files brimmed with ignored complaints, altered records, and hush money buried in city budgets. A whistleblower, Michael, slipped her internal memos, risking his career to expose the truth. Each revelation tightened the noose around the department's facade. Weeks passed, and the city pulsed with action. Protests filled the streets, students marched, and community centers became hubs of strategy. Margaret, Sarah, and Thomas formed a tight alliance, their skills voice, pen, and lens dismantling the system piece by piece. Michael and other officers joined, their testimonies shattering the department's armor. At a televised forum, Margaret faced city officials, her words sharp and unwavering. Reform isn't optional. We demand oversight, transparency, and justice. The crowd roared, her vision of a rebuilt system resonating deeply. The climax came at a city hall hearing. The mayor, under pressure, announced sweeping reforms, an independent oversight board, empathy-driven training, and transparent evaluations. Harper and several colleagues faced disciplinary action, their careers crumbling. The room erupted in applause, a wave of relief washing over the crowd. Margaret exchanged glances with Sarah and Thomas, their shared not a silent vow to keep pushing. As the sun set over Boston, Margaret stood outside the community center, candles flickering in a vigil for those lost to systemic injustice. The crowd chanted, "This light is our promise." Their voices a symphony of hope. She spoke, her words a beacon. We've built a foundation for justice, not just for us, but for those who come after. The applause was deafening, a testament to a city transformed. Months later, the reforms took root. Oversight boards monitored police conduct, training programs shifted, and community trust began to mend. Margaret, now a Harvard graduate, led a coalition for ongoing change, her name etched in Boston's history. Harper, stripped of his badge, faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale of power unchecked. The city, once fractured, stood united, its streets alive with the promise of equity. This story isn't just Margaret Sitzar's. It's a reminder that injustice thrives in silence, but courage can shatter it. What are your thoughts on violence and injustice in our world? Have you faced or witnessed systemic wrongs? Share your stance in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation alive. Your voice matters.